welcome back. It's currently November 2nd. So a little recap, if you watched the last video, I did some prep work for draft 2, figured out how I wanted to write draft 2. But actually, in the meantime, I had a bit more free time than I was expecting and I started draft 2. So I'm about 6,000 words in, but we are not counting that for NaNoWriMo. Today is the first day that we're putting new words down, and what you just saw was me working on November 1st because I felt super guilty doing absolutely nothing on the very first day of NaNoWriMo. So I was reading over those 6,000 words and writing commentary on things I want to go back and edit before I move on. So let's get started. So I just finished up doing 2 writing sprints. I do 30-minute writing sprints, so I did 2 back-to-back with a little break in between. And before doing my first writing sprint, I did some outlining for the scene, which is very typical for me. So you saw me writing in my notebook, which is because I get more creative ideas when I physically handwrite them. So I was figuring out what information had to be divulged in this scene and organized in what order that information was going to be shared. And then from there I started writing. So for reference, typically in a 30-minute sprint, I will write 500 words. So in an hour, I will get between 850 words and 1,000 words. So my first writing sprint was actually 300 words flat, but it made a lot of sense. Kind of how I predicted that I had to be a lot more careful with my prose in draft 2. I was very careful in starting this scene, but also it's very typical when I start a new chapter, I am always so slow getting into it. And once you get into the scene, everything moves a lot quicker, which proved to be true because in my second sprint, I got 593 words written. So I'm gonna share with you guys right now what my word count tracker looks like. Insert here. So to talk a little bit about the scene I was writing, I had to be very careful and meticulous with the details of this scene because it introduces a new character, and my plans for this character completely depend on my ability to make readers immediately feel a kinship and immediately want to root for this character, as well as feel protective of this character, which is difficult because when I write characters, I characterize them with interest in details with their dialogue, and I create this picture of this character I see in my head, but I've never thought about how these characters might be perceived, at least not in terms of anything grander than they'll be liked or hated. In this character very specifically, I had to think about the emotional connection that my writing was going to draw between the reader and the character. So I'm a bit curious how that's going to turn out. There was some dialogue that I didn't feel like was in his voice in particular, so I'm gonna have to go back, work on that, and I'll probably give it to a critique partner to get their initial impression of this character, because I also feel like he comes across not very trustworthy, which I wasn't totally planning on, but also isn't totally inaccurate. So that was my very first set of writing sprints for draft 2, and we are sitting at 893 words. So it is the very next day, and what I have done is 2 writing sprints. But first writing sprint wasn't really a writing sprint. It was me reading over all of the new words and writing notes on what I wanted to change in that chapter. So currently writing chapter 6 of draft 2, and I wrote about 400 words in the second writing sprint, and now what I'm going to do is read over the entirety of the chapter because I just finished it, and I'm gonna go make all the changes that I commented for, as well as make it stronger in other places and probably add in a few more words. So currently the chapter is sitting at 1,344 words, but I'm hoping that by the time I do a revision of this chapter in the next 30 minutes that I can get that up to at least 1,500. Hello, so I am getting started on chapter 8, which is super daunting because I mentioned how Act 1 of Draft 2 is projected to have a much higher word count than Act 1 of Draft 1, and that's because I'm adding in a couple of scenes. So I always knew the bare bones of what was going to be happening in these scenes, but I never actually drafted or plotted these scenes. So when I started chapter 8, it was time to get doodling in my notebook because I mentioned earlier that writing by hand on paper allows me to be more creative than when I type ideas down. So this is in the exception of one case. The reason why I'm including this scene is because essentially it's a replacement scene. So this event is occurring and it's still going to occur in this scene, but I want it to occur in an entirely different way that is more interesting and more gripping and has more tension. So that's what I had to plot and get creative with, was how to create that tension, how to make it more exciting for readers, etc. In this way, it was difficult for me to get more creative writing by hand because I was confined to my prior ideas of what was going to happen in this scene. So I reverted to tactic number 2, the plan B of my creativity well, which is the what if document. So this was an idea that was given to me by one of my writer friends, and it works wonders for me when I have creativity blocks. So essentially it is a blank document, you title it what if, and that is the entirety of the document. You go, what if blank? What if this character did this instead of this? What if this event happened like this instead of this? What if this good guy is actually a bad guy? And so on and so forth. So I started this what if document and started to just go crazy with these dark themes. And as I went crazy, I actually struck a pot of gold and will be incorporating that in my chapter 8. So I wanted to share that because it's a very fun and different thing that I'm used to in terms of triggering my creative inspiration. And now I get to take those ideas and run with chapter 8. Hey guys, so we are getting to the very end of this vlog because I decided to cut off this week 1 vlog at the 7-day mark. Initially I was planning on having week 2 start the 11th, which is a Monday, because I kind of just wanted to go from Monday to Sunday and do weeks like that. But I think I'm just gonna stick this vlog from November 1st to the end of November 7th and then go from there. So to recap what our stats have looked like this week, November 1st, we had 0 words. November 2nd, we had 893 words. November 3rd, we had 757 words. November 4th, we had 1,779 words. November 5th, 437 words. November 6th, 1,315 words. And then on our final day, which was yesterday, I got 718 words. Week 1 period, I hit 5,899 words, which is so awesome. I'm already over that 5,000 word per week goal, and hopefully this weekend I can add on as many words as humanly possible to give myself a buffer for later weeks should I go slower or I get busier and anything else comes my way. I'll have this as a buffer. So I'm really happy with how this week went. I really took any and every opportunity I had to write and it also boosted my mood. It was so exciting doing this, knowing that there are so many other people in the community doing this November writing challenge. And speaking of, if anybody watching this is doing it, I wish you all the luck in the world, all the best. I hope your first week went super great and that it's going to continue to go well and just be a really fun and encouraging time. So my next video is going to be these extra tack on days. So this weekend and Veterans Day, I'm going to try to get as many words as I can as possible as my buffer. So wish me luck for that. You can look forward to me actually leaving this dormitory to write and going to cafes and other outdoor spots, as well as me writing with a friend who I mentioned in this video. She's my writer friend who gave me inspiration for the what if document. And so we will see you guys then. Thank you again. Bye.